unique about Berlin is the people. The people are very diverse. They love their city. They defend their city. They try out new things, new modes of transport, and like to party. But on the other hand, they also like their neighborhood. Their kiez, how we call it here. They can live there, they can party there, they can buy things, have education, everything. And they like it there. The mobility patterns of the population in Berlin is pretty different. So I would say 3/4 use public transport, use their bikes, cycling, and are walking. And roughly 25% use cars for their daily transport modes. And people also have experience with new modes of transport, e-scooters, electric cars, sharing cars, that try to go into this experience as well. However, we have to admit it's still a very small proportion of all modes of transport or ways of transport in Berlin so far. Our ambition is a sustainable Berlin, an environmental friendly, climate friendly Berlin, so that people's expectations are being met because people want that from us as a government, because everybody knows and sees that the conventional structure of transport, roads are just for car driving and car parking. This is over. People don't want that anymore. They want to linger, they want to use the street for other modes, cycling, walking anyway, but linger around, restoration, bars, cafes, and so on. And this is just underway, and that's our ambition to make Berlin a better place. In order to boost electric mobility in the city, Berlin has already started pretty early in 2013 to develop a public charging infrastructure. And right now in 2021, we have 1,600 public charging points in Berlin, ever increasing. Our ambition is to develop much more line in line with the growing car fleet number in Berlin.
We have now a good starting point at the moment. We have about 20,000 EVs, electric vehicles, in the city. This is 1 to 2% of all vehicles in Berlin, so it's not much, but we have 25% of all new registered private passenger cars are electric today. 25%, this is a high number.
Ich habe im Jahr 2011 mal in einer Zeitschrift gelesen, dass es einen Sportwagen gibt, ein Elektroauto, was wahnsinnig schnell ist, aber damals einen Wert von unter 4 Sekunden kommuniziert, von 0 auf 100 und zu einem Preis von etwas über 100.000 Euro, 110.000, 115.000 Euro. Also wahrlich kein Schnäppchen, aber wenn man vergleicht, was die Verbrenner kosten, die das leisten konnte, dann in dem Vergleich schon noch mal deutlich billiger. Ja, das hat mich neugierig gemacht. Ich bin nach Hamburg gefahren und habe diesen Tesla Roadster dort gefahren. Und das war alles ein bisschen hemdsärmlich, Mikrofirma, ein Vorführfahrzeug und so weiter. Aber es hat wahnsinnig viel Spaß gemacht. Es ist wie Motorradfahren. Man hat schneller, langsamer und bei dem Auto ist One-Pedal-Feeling ein Begriff. Das heißt schneller, langsamer, der rekuperiert wird langsamer. Das macht wahnsinnig viel Spaß. Bin dann nach Hause und habe ihn am Montag angerufen und habe gesagt, okay, ich will. Das ist ein Teil meiner Altersversorgung jetzt, aber ich mache das, ich gehe mal komplett neue Wege. Und meine Freundin damals, die sagte zu mir, Hans, solange du aus diesem Auto rauskommst, bist du nicht alt.
Today we have almost 1,700 publicly accessible charging points in public and private spaces in Berlin, which is in comparison with other German cities quite a lot. About 450 of these charging points are located in publicly accessible private spaces. The other almost 1,250 charging points are located in public spaces.
Regarding electromobility, there are 2 points. One point is that EVs are very attractive for the business and for the commercial traffic, because there's a business case for this. Now, on the other hand, we have the economy. There are a lot of companies in Berlin providing charging infrastructure, technique, digitalization, IT, and other services and hardware and software to support the change to the new mobility and to the electromobility. And this is one of our tasks, to support them and to have more jobs and more money in Berlin with this new technique and these new business models.
In Germany, we'll have 7 to 10 million electric cars to 2030. Breaking down those numbers to Berlin means that we need more than 200,000 charging points where people live and where people work. So public charging infrastructure is really important for people going around in the city. But by the end of the day, to boost electric mobility, we have to provide charging solutions where people live and where people work.
I think 5 years ago we had a problem with electric cars because there were not enough models and enough support for cars. But today we have a lack of charging infrastructure, and especially at home and at work. We need more charging infrastructure, but this is a complex thing regarding business models, technique, and so on. And I think this is a bottleneck in the moment.
I mean, as a housing company, we also manage a lot of parking lots. So somehow we have to equip those parking lots with charging infrastructure. I mean, there are like two challenges. The first one is the technical challenge. Do we have enough capacity for equipping those parking lots in our objects? And the second one is the economic challenge. Not only that those parking lots have to be equipped with hardware, but the pre-installation is the really costly part of that. So, do we have enough energy in our grid? Do we have enough capacity in our buildings? Those are really crucial points we want to address with User G.
With the User G app, we are going to test the combination of parking and charging. And that means that in Berlin, with the User G app, you can open a park barrier of a, let's say, a e-park spot. An e-park spot is a park spot in front of the charging station. And with opening this parking barrier of this parking spot, you have a very reliable access to the charging point. And this, we think, is very important for the EV drivers.
So where it's possible, we want to provide individual charging spots for our tenants. However, in the older buildings, this is not possible as the technical capacities are limited. So what we are aiming is that we are going to test charging hubs in our residential areas, so where the charging infrastructure is then shared by different tenants as well as by the public and mobility providers. And having then shared charging infrastructure hopefully brings us to a point where there's enough turnover at the charging infrastructure, so then this also increases the economic viability.
Wenn es um Elektromobilität geht, muss man alle mitnehmen. Natürlich die, die sie nutzen wollen, aber auch die, die in Städten leben und sich jetzt mit Ladesäulen oder anderen Einrichtungen für Elektroautos gegenüber sehen. Man muss das schon so planen, dass sich die, die sie niemals nutzen werden, nicht gestört fühlen. Man muss ihnen aber auch klar machen, dass sie wichtig sind, wenn es darum geht, eine Verkehrswende, eine Energiewende, eine Antriebswende zu erzielen. Kommen wir um Ladesäulen auch im Straßenraum nicht herum. Aber man muss eben auch ihre Bedürfnisse, wo sie stehen, wie sie aussehen, muss man schon ernst nehmen. Es gibt immer mehr Ladesäulen, immer mehr Elektroautos in Berlin. Berlin. Vor einigen Jahren waren es wirklich wenige, es war was sehr Exotisches. Heutzutage gibt es viel mehr von beiden. Aber das ist auch nur die Spitze des Eisberges. Elektromobilität ist viel weiter geworden. Man sieht heute Tretroller, E-Tretroller, E-Scooter, auf denen man fahren kann, man sich leihen kann, Sharing-Systeme, Carsharing-Anbieter mit Elektroautos. Also das Bild ist viel bunter geworden.
In addition, it's very important for Berlin that new development structures for housing are developed from the scratch in an environmental friendly way, which means that the housing companies, especially public housing companies, work together with us to a low-level car number development. Those cars which are allowed there should be electric, so we need to set up the electric car infrastructure there as well. We have already some good model projects for such a low car number development in some housing areas. Very important in these areas is as well to set up kind of mobility hubs. With the public transport company, we developed so-called Yelby hubs, where you can have all kinds of different mobility opportunities in one space and move from a bicycle to a car or to a public transport mode, because if these hubs are not in a housing area or new development area, but somewhere else in the city, it's pretty close to a public transport station, major station. A very good connection, very important connection for us.
Also want to really create a physical, visible space for sharing mobility in the public areas, so that you really as a user also know where you can get and put sharing mobility back. Like you have this whole, because you don't put your car just anywhere, you know that you have a parking space where you put your car, and that is also the idea, that you have a visible space where you know, okay, that is the spot for sharing mobility.
Ja, auf der einen Seite haben wir natürlich keine Verbrennerfahrzeuge mehr. Also wir haben einfach saubere Fahrzeuge, leisere Fahrzeuge, und das kann der ganzen Lebensqualität in Städten natürlich helfen. So profitieren dann vor allem auch die E-Autos gar nicht nutzen, Radfahrer, Fußgänger. Klar ist natürlich aber auch, einfach eine Antriebswende aus jedem Verbrenner ein E-Fahrzeug machen reicht auch nicht. Wir müssen schon gucken, wie die E-Mobilität, und die muss über das Auto hinausgehen, mit öffentlichen Verkehrsmitteln, mit Elektrokleinstfahrzeugen, wie wir ein intelligentes System schaffen, was den Menschen die individuelle Mobilität bietet, die sie in dem Moment brauchen, vielleicht auch ohne eigenes Auto. Und dass wir dann insgesamt sogar weniger Autos in Städten haben. Ziel muss sein, die Lebensqualität muss verbessert werden, erhöht werden, ohne dass ich in meinen persönlichen Mobilitätsbedürfnissen eingeschränkt werde.
I think electromobility is very important to fight against the climate crisis and for the pollution as well, of course, noise reduction in the city as well. This is very important, but it's not only the EVs, it's about sharing, for example, yeah? To share cars and lorries. Even in companies it's possible to share cars and infrastructure, charging infrastructure, with the 2 or 3 or 4 companies which are on the same area or the same direction. This is a good idea as well, because sharing and digitalization and electric mobility is one hot top in the future, or for the future.
Like we very closely together also with the city representatives, because what we think is that Yelby could also like offer a great option, like kind of driving this whole mobility chain forward, also in a way that reflects a city's ideas and a city's wishes how the mobility ecosystem should look like.
I think electric mobility can only be a small part of the solution in order to address the climate goals of Berlin and in order to address the transportation goals of Berlin. We can't just replace all the combustion engine cars through electric vehicles. However, we have to think about how we can address the mobility needs of our tenants more holistic. Parts with sharing offers, parts with the public transportation, Bicycling, walking, these are all really important transportation modes in order to make transportation more climate friendly and more sustainable.